Fears are mounting of an escalation between NATO members and Russia as Vladimir Putin tempts WW3 by creating a string of potential flashpoints outside Ukraine. Moscow has become increasingly confident and brazen as Donald Trump's attention pivots from Europe to the Western Hemisphere. With Washington, D.C. preoccupied with ratcheting up its military presence off the coast of Venezuela, Putin has poked at the edges of the NATO alliance. Drone strikes on a tanker supplying Kyiv on the Danube, a river serving as the border between Ukraine and Romania, forced the evacuation of nearby villages, with Russia also being blamed for sabotaging railway tracks in neighboring Poland. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk warned of escalation by Russian intelligence and concerns Moscow is attempting to spread chaos and panic. Attacks this week are nothing new for Kremlin dictator Putin, who has carefully prodded at the edges of NATO for any weak spots where he can force a split the leadership of the defensive alliance. Any moves in NATO member states bordering Russia and war zones is being carefully watched amid concern of an overreaction to Russian-sponsored incidents, as well as failing to meet the moment should Moscow declare war on another country. Romania. Shockwaves were sent through NATO member Romania overnight after a mass Russian missile and drone bombardment on Ukraine crept up to its border with the southeastern European country. Villages along Romania's side of the Danube were evacuated amid fears the tanker carrying supplies for Ukraine could explode. The Mount Ordina was struck as it offloaded liquefied petroleum gas on the border while dozens of people were on board the vessel. 2 villages were evacuated by Romanian officials as firefighters battled to put out the blaze. Poland. NATO nation Poland also contended with an incident after discovering railway tracks in the country had been sabotaged as Russia launched attacks on Ukraine. The actions of suspected Russian agents led to a stark warning from Prime Minister Tusk. He said, "These acts of sabotage and the actions of Russian services across the whole of Europe, not only in Poland, are unfortunately gaining momentum. We are dealing with an escalation." Russia Today clapped back, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov telling state media. Russia is accused of all manifestations of the hybrid and direct war that is taking place. In Poland, let's say, everyone is trying to run ahead of the European locomotive in this regard. And Russophobia, of course, is flourishing there. Baltic states, the countries of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia have long been considered likely targets for Russian expansionists, despite the trio all being NATO members. In September, Russian fighter jets repeatedly entered Baltic airspace. In a provocative move, Russia amassed a large military presence, complete with nuclear-capable missiles, in its Kaliningrad exclave that is wedged between Poland and Lithuania. Finland. In an era-changing move, Finland abandoned its long-held military neutrality in 2022 following the invasion of Ukraine. The country also erected a 124-mile-long fence along its border with Russia in the event of any territorial violations. It closed border crossings with Russia since 2023 and cited the reasons as halting what it branded as Russian-instigated illegal entries.